Otherwise You Well. And we are very much focused on ADHD. It's something that's very important to me personally. And I feel like it's one of these things in mental health that's so severely misunderstood, particularly in South Africa. There's no conversation about it. I mean, I did a stand-up show the other day to 2,500 people in the audience. And I said, does anyone here know about ADHD? And there was just like dead silence. And I was like, okay, we really need some awareness around ADHD in this country. And I mean, I obviously my Instagram algorithm is just all ADHD memes and things like that. But that's not everyone's algorithm. I think there's a lot of just like, I'm a piano and not ADHD. So hopefully this comes across your timeline and something that you might be interested in. This is the second conversation that we're having with Karla Pretorius. Karla is an old friend of mine. We've known each other for over 20 years. And in the meantime, she has become one of the world's leaders on teaching about autism in children, and an ADHD specialist at the moment. That's what she's focusing on. And I think that there's so much that we can learn from her. And I'm so glad. I'm going to just keep bringing her back because she really understands things. Karla, hi.
It's also the only time that we talk. So that's great because we're so busy and we both have ADHD. So this is lovely. It's like our special interest.
Our special interest. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. I also just kind of feel at this age, we're at that stage where unless our professional calendars match, we're never going to see each other. And that happens with so many of my friends as well, you know. There's another friend of mine. We literally only saw each other once a year when we shot this TV show together. And it was just like, oh, my friend, hi, I haven't seen you in a year. And now we haven't shot in 2 years and I haven't seen them in 2 years. So it's really nice to be here with you.
Yeah, the same thing for me as well. And I think it's also remarkable with people in general that we haven't seen each other in ages and we could just kind of go on where we've left off, especially if it's so interest-based. So yeah, I'm loving being here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. I've been watching your social media page grow from when you sort of started focusing on the ADHD stuff to now how you've become like, like it's one of those pages that I go on. I'm like, oh, this is a professional. I see you outside of the guise of you being my friend. And by the way, please excuse my nails. I had nails this morning. I had a visa appointment for this mental health conference, which is happening in 2 weeks. And I was so nervous about whether or not I was going to get my visa that I sat and I pulled my nails off. So I'm now in the stage where I just look like a garbage rat. So don't mind. I'm just going to try and hold my hands here. But now I love just telling people whatever's on my mind. And I think that has a lot to do with ADHD. We have like no control over what is happening in our brains sometimes.
Yeah, for us, it's the biggest thing. It's funny that you said that. I have a nail appointment right after this, and it's the same for me because it's been ages. So I'm so self-conscious. I'm like, don't show your nails, don't show your nails, and then talk about your nails, talk about your nails.
Don't show your nails, don't show your nails, show your nails, 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 nails.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what I wanted to talk about were some of the acronyms that we were throwing around in our last episode. So if you haven't watched the previous episode, go and have a little catch up. We did a very basic introduction to ADHD. I want to talk about some of the acronyms. I want to talk about pathological demand avoidance. I want to talk about histrionic personality disorder, and any other acronyms that come into play with the whole ADHD package. Which one is in your hyper-focus space at the moment?
PDA. So PDA is definitely my hyper fixation because there's such a high comorbidity of ADHDers that have PDA. So you're saying it correctly. It is a pathological demand avoidance, but a more neuroaffirming way of stating it. And I think more what the core is about that condition or profile rather, is a persistent drive for autonomy because that's what we really want.
Ooh, I'm so glad. Okay, so I made my vision and my goal for the next sort of like 10, 20 years. I sort of revisited my vision board the other day, and I try to break it into like, okay, how, because I get hyper focused on stuff and I can easily get distracted and go down a different route, and because I'm so multifaceted and multi-talented, it's hard for me to say no to work that comes in, because I'm like, oh yeah, but I can do that. I can do that. So I made my rules are, I want either, it has to fall under these 3 categories, either creative, strategic, or financial autonomy. But I also swap out autonomy for equity. So within equity, you can have autonomy. So I'm not gonna do this job unless I have some sort of stake in how this thing plays out. And I feel like that I accidentally sort of made my personality into my work, because I feel I've suffered so severely in a show that I did many years ago. So I had no creative autonomy, and it would be absolute pain. I would have panic attacks just before I went on to shoot live. I would have absolute attacks in the dressing room because I was like, I have no say in this thing, and this is not who I am, and that made me feel so uncomfortable. But explain more what that even means. What is PDA?
So that feeling that you explained, that's very accurate. It's extremely accurate. That feeling of we're in a corner, we're being pushed in a corner, there's no way out, we don't even see the window, somebody is kind of poking us, and we don't know how to get away from this person or this demand or expectation. And then the anxiety just kind of like grows in, and ultimately it becomes dread. And that dread can be presented as externalized dread. So get away from me, pushing you, punching, telling people like, I hate you, get away from me, I hate this, I don't want to do this. Or internalizing, where we say, okay, I'll do the show, but you have the panic attack, you have the resentment, and it's actually like suppression that's just building, 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 building. And there's going to be a time, as you know, that you either bubble over or that you become sick physically. We internalize things so much that we become sick. To make it more practical, PDA is a persistent drive to control things in our own way. And the reason for that is because we don't want to disappoint. We feel like there are these expectations from others all the time, in the words they say, in the things they mention, in the undertone. So we pick up what the person is actually meaning, even though they say, yes, of course you can come to my birthday party. And there's a bit of a hesitation. We pick that up. Our nervous system is so in tune with the other person and what their intent is. And we don't even know, especially when we're younger. So we have all these feelings that's like bubbling into our bodies, and we don't know why we're feeling so uncomfortable. And then we usually numb it, or we forget about it, pretend that it's not there, or we're the ones that act out. So there's so much to say. This is why.
Okay, so let's give some basic examples, because this is something that I didn't realize was PDA and part of the ADHD thing. When someone says to me, you must watch this show, like there's a trending show, or somebody goes, you have to listen to this band, or you have to read this book, or you have to go and do this thing. And I'm like, I cannot do it. I cannot, like, unless you literally tie me to a chair and tape my eyelids open, I cannot watch the newest season of some reality show. Like, I cannot do it. Like, my whole body feels, literally the thought of watching something that somebody has told me to watch makes me feel sick. Like, even talking about it right now makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, so that's exactly it. That feeling of, you don't tell me what to do, don't tell me how to do it. That's again that kind of like, if you can imagine a little child being pushed in a corner, and we're just saying, you need to sit there, you can't look at me, you can't have food. That's that same feeling that our nervous system get. And the reason for that is because we were just told an expectation that's not ours. So the control is taken away, the autonomy is taken away. We don't have agency over our bodies anymore. And now we're being told what to do. So there's a certain expectation. So we need to now react in a certain way. So when you watch the show, now you have to tell them, oh, it's a nice show. And all of these things go through our mind with the added benefit of having ADHD. So we're spiraling with these thoughts. So that's where it becomes really tricky.
I mean, you know, just it seems like these are such small things, right? It feels like, okay, so you don't want to do something. Cool. All right. So let's just add that this is just one element of ADHD. Okay, cool. So you don't want to do things, right? But now you're also very sensitive. Okay. So you pick up on stuff. Cool. So that's another thing. Then also you are hyperfixated on something at the time. So that's another thing. So you're hyperfixated. So then also you have a time management issue because you have time blindness. So there's the executive dysfunction that sits there. So the thing is, like, why are we mentioning all of these things? Is because this whole bouquet of ADHD piles up into one human being who is so busy processing, like all the tabs in our brain are open at the same time, and it just makes functioning as a normal human being so very difficult. So that's why we're breaking it down into these different things so that you can understand, okay, cool, this little element of it is part of ADHD. So you can go, okay, cool, that is part of it. So then you can stop feeling guilty about the thing and go, okay, cool, this is part of my thinking. Now I can either solve for it or understand what it is and process things easier so that I can deal with the next lot of things, which is maybe like histrionic personality disorder or another acronym that is part of the ADHD world of living. I was just speaking to a psychiatrist now, and we were talking about like supplements and things like that. And often I'll say to friends of mine, like, you must take this supplement. And they're like, no, absolutely not. But that's just because I've told someone with ADHD what to do, and they are just now not going to do it because I just told them to do it,
No.
So sometimes I
So,
find, is there a way that I can communicate or that I can be
yeah.
communicated with that's easier for me to have or feel like I have autonomy?
Uh, just to distinguish there, because not every ADHDer is going to have PDA. It is a comorbid that's quite high, but it's not part of the diagnosis, right? So it's something that's really highly related to people with ADHD, more so people with autism, so autistic individuals, or ADHDers, so people with the combined type. And the percentage is quite high. I'm not going to give you a percentage because I don't want to be misquoted there, but it's really high in terms of being neurodivergent and having that profile. Now, if you just dislike it when people tell you to do something and you just dislike it because you feel a bit like, no, I'll show you, that's part of ADHD. But that feeling that you described, where it's like, I am going to have a panic attack because I was told what to do and I have no agency in this show, that's PDA. This is very different. So your nervous system is completely overwhelmed, and it's not a small thing, and it's not something that we just want to be different, or it's actually an attack towards us. So I have internalizing PDA, and so I'll do the thing that I have to do, but there's resentment that grows up to a point, and then I'll boil over. So it's a very different thing. So how do we communicate? That's a very good question. The person that is experiencing these things, they should become more aware of, what does PDA mean? What does their ADHD profile look like, or ADHD or autistic profile look like? And how does PDA fit into that? And then as soon as they do more research on it, there are some good resources out there. Then they can see, okay, so I hate it when people ask me, when last did you go to the gym? I won't go to the gym then, because you just asked me, like, you.
Oh, this happened to me last week where I've been regularly going to the gym. And then my friend was like, did you go to the gym today? And I was like, well, now I'm not going to go. Now,
No,
just because you
exactly.
told me, I'm not going to go.
Yeah. Yeah, because it felt like they were judging you. It feels like we're constantly being watched, and we're being seen as incompetent, and we're not. And I mean, you've got 500 jobs already, and now the 1 week that you didn't go to the gym, or God forbid the month that you didn't go for the gym, it feels like to the gym, it feels like somebody is putting a magnifying glass over you and saying, well, see, told you you're not perfect. That's the feeling.
It's exactly. I feel so relieved knowing that that this is part of my makeup and that I'm not imagining it, because a lot of the time. So I want to talk a little bit about like. I'm actually going to ask Matt. Can you, while we're chatting, can you please look up some memes or some images of the autism spoon or the neurodivergent spoon? Okay, we're gonna look for some images of something that is ridiculous as knowing which spoon you like. So um there was a meme that I saw, and it was like this beautifully designed spoon, and people were like, oh, how well does this scale on the ADHD or autism or neurodivergent spoon uh scale, like, do we approve of it or not? And what happened was, the spoon, there was a lot of people that were commenting on the spoon, but it had a wooden handle. So everything on the spoon spectrum, or what I liked, I was like, yes, this seems like an ADHD or a neurodivergent approved spoon. But then it had wood with metal, and all I could think about was, what if germs get in between the wood and the metal? Because I've seen what those germs look like. And then my OCD started tweaking as well. So my question, I know there's a lot of context, because obviously ADHD, I love to either too much context or no context. I was like, how many people with ADHD have OCD?
Yeah. Okay. So I just spoke about this earlier today, which is funny that you brought it up. So my supervisor is a therapist in South Africa, Ben Truter, amazing therapist. If anyone needs a therapist there. He was speaking about, so OCD is very different to the diagnosis of a neurodivergence, which is biological. And OCD is not biological. It's more of a psychotherapy, or a psychological profile, right? So those are two different profiles. And if you have a biological profile, a neurobiological profile like ADHD, ODHD, autism, your behaviors might become very obsessive, because that's your way of controlling things, especially if you have PDA too. So you might develop these compulsions of doing a certain thing and obsessing about your desk looking a certain way, and cleanliness, and making sure you locked something, because your ADHD brain tells you and reminds you all the time that you forget things. So it becomes this like habitual thing that you're checking all the time. It's not something that you develop in a certain way because of the anxiety. It's because of the neurodivergence. So there's a clear difference there. So I just want to make sure. And even when you were talking about histrionic personality disorder, that's also a different diagnosis than a neurodivergent diagnosis. So the overlap, yes, of course, there are people with comorbid diagnoses like that, but we just have to make sure that it's not a symptom of ADHD and it presents as OCD. Like we spoke earlier in one of our other talks about, it could present as borderline personality disorder or even bipolar disorder. So we need to make sure that it's not the neurodivergence.
That's so helpful, because we, like I said, people throw these things around, or they watch like 2 videos on Instagram and go, okay, cool, I've got OCD and I've got PDA and I'm ADHD or whatever, and we don't know what these things are. So thank you so much for clarifying those. When I was younger, or what I found is, my OCD doesn't always present, and that sometimes it's worse than other times. Like if I'm premenstrual, for example, I am much more OCD from a cleanliness perspective and an organizational perspective. But what I realized that, or what I read, and maybe you can confirm or deny or tell me, is that hormonally or from a DNA perspective, you when you're premenstrual, you're sort of genetically predisposed to be nesting. So the home needs to be clean for the baby that's gonna come. Like that's what I was told. That's why my OCD gets worse just before I'm about to get my period. Is that a real thing?
I mean, I don't know the studies on that, but it sounds pretty real to me. What I do know is the study that I presented on 2 weeks ago about ADHD women and PMDD, or premenstrual, what we go through that period before we ovulate. And that is a lot more intense for us. The symptoms are more intense for us. And that percentage is really high in ADHD women specifically. So I think everything that we biologically should feel as a woman, because that makes total sense, like nesting and making it cute and nice for the baby. And, we need to be like home and safe, and those kind of things are going to be highlighted for you as somebody with ADHD.
Can you just clarify the period in which, like, where in the cycle it becomes more pronounced? Because you mentioned ovulating, and I don't really know. I always thought that it got worse just before the actual menstruation. So where in the cycle does your PMDD? Please explain that clearer for me.
So, okay, so I need to get the name correct. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So, yeah, so that's usually when that would happen, would be about 10 days before your period starts. So we usually think, oh, a day or two, that's when we're at the worst symptoms start, and mine is usually the second day. But if you start tracking your period, and I'm not an expert in this, so I'm just going to say this. But if you start tracking your period and you look at about 10 days before your period, that's when you would start noticing shifts in your mood. And that's when I would, even before that, I would start putting in a bit more breaks. I would definitely focus on taking it easier at night, just so that I can kind of like prepare my body for the change, because I don't think we pay enough attention to these monthly changes that our bodies are going through. I don't think.
I mean, we don't do it at all. My friends and I will often message each other and go, just like I had that little video that went viral about, we forget that winter happens every year in South Africa. Like, we forget. We literally wake up and go, oh, we get winter. And every month I feel like that. Oh, I get my period. I totally forgot about this. How did I forget when this has been happening to me every single month since I was 11 years old? How do I forget that why am I feeling like this? Oh, yes, I'm about to get my period. But like, it's because you feel so supernatural for the rest of the month. Like, you can't possibly believe that your same brain doesn't function the way that it functions the rest of the month. You're like, whose brain is this? Who has occupied my body, and why am I incapable of doing anything that I'm used to doing, or thinking the way that I'm used to thinking?
Yeah, it's the same feeling I used to get when I was on over. I don't drink as much anymore because I just can't handle that feeling of like, am I ever going to get my brain back? Am I going to be smart again? I feel like there's a complete shift, and every shift for us is so big because we notice all the details. So for us, it's like, if there's pain, because the pain is going to be more highlighted with ADHD women, like I said, they did the study specifically on women on their PMDD cycles, or women with PMDD, sorry, and the ADHD cycles, and their ovulation cycles. They were showing that how big of a difference it makes for them in their relationships, their work productivity, their ADHD symptoms. The one woman was saying, because this was a qualitative study, so it was only, I think it was 14 people that they interviewed regularly on a 8-week, sorry, this is like my geek coming out.
Oh, no, please, please,
Anyway,
please, go full geek, please.
okay. So the one woman was saying that she had to double her dose of her stimulant medication because she saw such a lack of the effects. So she had to double the dose. And there it seemed like the psychiatrist agreed with her, saying that the symptoms are, it needs to be covered by a double dose basically during that period, during her 7 to 10 days.
That's so interesting, because the brain fog is so pronounced at that point of time. I said to a friend of mine, she was so very angry about something. She's got inattentive ADHD. She doesn't take a stimulant. I take stimulant. And I very flippantly said, "You're insane right now. Don't trust your brain." And she was like, "Don't tell me I'm insane." I'm like, "No, that's my safe word with my other friends that I use that they tell me to remind me, oh gosh, it's you're about to get your period, so your brain isn't functioning properly. Don't worry, you're just insane. Just don't trust the hormones, you know." Whereas her language in her household, because both her and her husband are ADHD, they've got different forms of ADHD. His is like mine, and hers is the inattentive one. He's also got OCD. She doesn't have OCD. So she understands how to deal with me because I'm very much like her husband. And we've had to learn how to understand her form of ADHD, which is different. So it's actually quite interesting. And I don't know if you've seen that meme that said, like, people with ADHD are like a pack of like, not dysfunctional, but like dysfunctional wolves that hang out together. But basically, I've found that a lot of my friends are ADHD. My close-knit circle all have ADHD. Why? Why do we find each other?
We flock together.
Yeah.
I really do think it's because we feel so out of place. So we need to find those people, the tribe that accepts us, and that's not going to think it's weird that we just say the thing, or like the amount of times that I was told when I was younger, "That's random. Why did you say that?" Where I never felt like that with you. I could say the most random things and you would just laugh, and I love your laugh because I would think I'm hilarious. I could just be out laughing mainly, and everybody else would be like weirdos. But that's why, like we feel, and I think we also like we kind of like we feel our nervous systems feel safe with each other. That's it. I mean,
That's
I feel
interesting.
safe with you.
100%. I want to, okay, Matt has found some images of spoons. If you just open that for me, okay, just that picture, the fourth picture there with the different spoons. If you can just pull that up. I don't know if Karla can see this at the same time. Can she see it at the same time? Okay. Matt is busy being a technical genius, and I'm just making demands here. Luckily, he doesn't have pathological demand avoidance or any other form of it. So I don't know where this goes on the spectrum, but I must just say I was.
Oh, I got.
Can you see?
I can see it. Yeah, now I can see the spoons.
I can't see them on my side now, but which is your favorite spoon? Which one would you say is the one that's the most like ADHD / autism / neurodivergent friendly? Which of these spoons would you use?
Probably the second from the right, the second from the last one. I think the other ones, it feels like it's too old. Like it's gonna be dirty. It's gonna like my grandma used it, and I like the skinny one because it looks really clean. But it's too small to eat my yogurt with that one.
So this is so funny because I mean it's the second to. I wouldn't use any of those, but the second to on the right is the only one that I would use of those. You know what happened the other day is I ran out of forks, so I don't know what happens. I don't know if I throw them away or I put them in like lunch boxes or something. But I landed up only having one fork left the other day, and it wasn't a nice fork. It was a fork that I don't know where that fork came from. It wasn't my fork, and then I just couldn't eat. So I was like, I landed up just only making something that I could eat with chopsticks or a spoon because I was like, I refused to use that fork. And then my sister, I was telling her about this. It was my birthday, and I was like, listen, you can just get me forks for my birthday. And she's like, that's so funny. They've just done a clear out and they had all these forks that they were just literally going to give away, but none of them match. But I'm totally okay with that because all of them fitted into the spectrum of types of forks that I could use. It's I don't know. There's something about it. I don't know what it is. But I'm glad that I'm not the only one that is very particular about which spoon or fork I could use.
Yeah, I think it goes nicely to what you were talking about earlier with the spoons, and also just the spoon theory, like checking out how many spoons of energy we have left for the thing that we need to do. So I think that's kind of like a nice analogy to also keep. I have a specific fork that I use for my pet food, and I won't be able to use anything else, even though I wash it. Like there's no way that I'll use my forks to scoop out like their food. There's no way. So I think it's a combination of like cleanliness, a bit of our attention to detail, and then also our minds just playing tricks on us, like thinking, oh my goodness, this is so dirty. Like the dirt can go into here and there, and what else is hiding there? And I'm just so happy that I don't know that much about germs, because I think I
Oh,
would live in a bubble.
don't go. You know what happened the other day? I say the other day, I was on a flight, and I'm one of those people that I don't wear shoes in my house, and like I don't wear my like. I once dated a guy, and it didn't last very long because I broke up with him because he came to visit me straight after the airport, and then like jumped into the bed with me with his airport clothes on, and I couldn't breathe. I was like, ah, I couldn't breathe. It totally like freaked me out to the point where I was like, how do you what goes on in your brain that you think that you can get into the bed with airport clothes on? That like broke my brain. Anyway, but then I was on a flight and I had to take my meds. It was a long flight. It was like a 12-hour flight, and I dropped my antipsychotic tablet, which helps me with my OCD, on the floor of the plane. And I was in this quandary where I was like, the thing that I need to help me get over the germs is on the floor with the germs. And I was like, this is a
Irony.
quagmire. This is a quandary of note. So I had to
What did you
literally suck
do?
it up. So like I picked it up and I sort of like wiped it on
Oh
my
my goodness.
shirt, and I was just like, okay, hopefully I won't die today. And
Oh, I thought you were gonna open it and just like put it.
no, it wasn't even a capsule. It was like a tablet.
Oh,
But anyway, I mean these are the like little tricks that I have to like play with myself all the time. Like, what is the worst of the two evils, you know?
yeah, we have to, unfortunately, because there's so many things going on in our minds that we have to also choose our own battles. So, like, some of the times we have to trick ourselves just to get through certain parts of the day, like, otherwise we're going to be thinking about the same kind of overthinking thought or whatever, one thought, spiraling thought, and we're not going to be able to just move on to the next task. So, I think tricking yourself or finding loopholes, that's what we're really good at, finding loopholes. Like, well,
Totally.
yeah.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that, because I've realized like that I've started implementing tricks, right? So if for example there's a behavior that I'm not enjoying, like if I need to stop binge eating at night, or if I want to stop overspending, or like any sort of like pleasure seeking, dopamine releasing activity, I give myself 2 activities that could do that. So I'm like, you can either eat this bowl of cornflakes at midnight, or you can and then what I'll do is like I'll go, okay, you can either do this or there's a consequence. So I either create like an immediate consequence, or I'll create another immediate pleasure. But the immediate consequence gives me the same dopamine kick as the thing. So like if you do this, then so there was a friend of mine, I always used to snap at her in the friendship group. I think she was younger than me, and I treated her in my mind like she's like my baby sister, and I can just like, and she said to me like she really didn't appreciate how I snap at her the whole time. It makes her feel terrible because she's the type of person that takes a long time to respond. And I did it like 2 or 3 times, and I didn't realize that was my behavior. She pointed it out, and I was like, how do I change my behavior towards her in those moments where I feel safe enough to snap, if that makes any sense? And so my consequence was, if I snapped at her, I would have to give up doing a voiceover. So like I would have to give up taking a booking for something that I earn money from. That was the consequence. And it changed the way that I treat her, because I was like, the stakes are so high. So like I keep putting these like little like consequences in for me that are shorter term, as opposed to like long-term consequences, which don't feel real to you. Like quitting smoking because in 30 years you're going to feel bad, or like eating a chocolate because in 3 weeks you're going to look fat, So if I just bring the consequences closer, it helps me with that.
Yeah, and that's perfect. That's what we need. We don't think about the long-term effect. So if it is like short-term and it actually hurts us in a way, then yes. I mean, I'm not saying that we're advocating like hurting yourself, but if it is something like, okay, we're gonna feel it, then that's good. Just because we're a little bit hedonistic with that, right? So we want like things that give us like that dopamine hit right away. So it could also be that we can use our ADHD to our advantage, where we're very good in distracting ourselves. So anything like, I was actually going to focus my research on this, but I'm changing it slightly now. But anything like a video that we could just watch. So anything that's inducing a transcendent emotion, like kama mutta or awe, that feeling of like you're looking at the planets, you're like, oh, wow, that's good. That's all. And then kama mutta is when you're watching a video of like two puppies or people coming home and they're helping somebody from, I don't know, people coming home from the war and they like reunited with their families. That kind of feeling, that warm feeling that we get, that's a really good distraction technique. So I would say also for people that are maybe falling into the trap of any addiction, to immediately go and redirect their ADHD to something else that gives them a little bit of a rush. So it can be like, yeah,
That's so
transcendent emotion.
crazy, because a lot of my depression and a lot of my like obsessive thinking, when I was like dealing with a obsessive limerence situation, I was in a situationship with this, I was getting breadcrumbed and I was just like obsessing about why this person was not, giving me the attention that I deserve, etc., etc. And what I would do is I started distracting myself with watching my K-pop videos with BTS, and I'd watch their concert videos. And like for some reason, like the concert videos, when there's like the whole crowd singing at the same time, and like for some reason, it just, I guess it's that awe, that like, or that like absolute sentimentality, like that. And I find myself doing that. So whenever I'm like totally stressed out and I find myself in obsessive thinking or even eating or whatever, I watch what I call like, okay, I'm going to go watch my little BTS videos now, guys. I'll chat to you later. And it really helps. I didn't realize there was a word for that.
Yeah. So it's any transcendent emotion has that ability to really pull us out and give us a little bit of perspective. I would watch, I'm currently going through a breakup, and I would watch something like, what do you call those? Like Britain's Got Talent
All
or
right.
America's Got
Yes,
Talent.
exactly.
The sad stories, like the sad ones coming in and saying, I live in a car and I don't have money for this. And then I had to sell my shoes to be here, and I'm bawling my eyes out. And then I completely forget that I'm going through a breakup. So I really do use my ADHD to my advantage.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm gonna convert you to become a BTS fan. I'm telling you, it literally saved my life. There was a lot of people. There's like BTS law that says, you don't find BTS when you need them. They find you. Like it's like it's just it's a game changer, and you'll be deluded for like 3 months. Like you just like lose time. I lost like 3 months just like throwing myself into this content, and by the time you've like gone through their 10 years worth of like digital footprint every single night of your life, you're over whatever it was that was upsetting you in the first place. Let me put you on.
About it.
Karla, thank you so much for today's chat. I suspect we'll probably be talking next week again, because you're just a well of information on the subject. And I'd be curious to know if anybody has any questions. Please send them through in the comments. And let's just get to know ourselves better, man.
Thank you so much, Nina. It's always a pleasure to chat to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Otherwise, you well.